Hi, Luisa. It's so great to have you here.
It's so great to be here. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, let's start with your personal journey. So, what inspired you to be part of the Miami-Dade County School Board?
Well, public schools made me who I am. I came as an 8-year-old undocumented English language learner, and between our teachers and our counselors and the opportunities in our schools, I became a proud job
Yeah,
creating entrepreneur and, of course, now school board member. And I really believe that in order for our country to have a strong future, we need a strong public education system. That is the way that we make sure that no matter where your zip code, where you were born, where you came from, your income level, that you have a chance, an opportunity to succeed. And that's what public schools do. So when I had the chance to put my name in the ring to represent the district that I grew up in, I was very inspired to ensure that the opportunities that were available to me are available to every child.
yeah,
And I could do that as a school board member.
I think that's fantastic. And just full disclosure, being able to work on your team for this past year has been fantastic, and getting to see the work that you do on like a first-person basis really taught me what the school board has on impact-wise. And I'm so glad to be able to share this today with everyone watching and let them know how their local school boards impact them. So, on top of that, you're also one of the youngest school board members to be elected in our county. So, what challenges and advantages have that brought to you, and what disadvantages and difficulties has that brought to you?
Being the youngest ever elected school board member
Mhm,
is in many ways a blessing to me
mhm,
because one, when I ran, I really could say I was so much closer to the lived experience of a student than I think had ever really happened on the school board. And I obviously value student perspective tremendously. I think students are number one sort of consumers, customers, the people we should base everything around. It's why we have a public education system. It's for those students. And so being able to connect and have those experiences firsthand is really helpful. Obviously, there are challenges in perceptions of younger people, including when I became a
mhm,
school board member and getting confused for being a high school student at school visits. The least of my worries, but
mhm.
certainly, I think people sort of making assumptions about
Yeah,
what I did or did not know and and really knowing I had to learn how to lean into the fact that it's very important to have a diversity of experience on the
yeah,
school board. I'm not advocating for,
mhm,
a school board filled with college students
mhm,
or a school board filled with only retirees. I think having the mix of experience is really important. And I was glad that I was able to bring that
yeah.
youth perspective to the board.
Yeah, and I know that many school board members have been principals or administrators in the past. So, being someone who is closer to have being a student, what does that also bring to it? Like, how do you feel having that student perspective from a few years back bring to the board?
Yeah, well, the student experience in our school changes rapidly.
Yeah.
And even people who graduated 2 years ago,
Mhm.
5 years ago, like things just change
Yeah.
so much so fast. And so I think the greatest benefit of being so close to that experience for me was that I knew from day one I had to create a system by which I would always have students involved and
Mhm.
at the table. So that no matter what the new challenge that students were
Yeah.
facing, could be, I would have a direct line
Mhm.
to getting direct input from students. And that's what I've been able to do with our internships and our fellowships. And I really think uh, that comes from having been elected at an age where I was so close to the student experience because I had just a couple years earlier really realized that young people rise to any expectation we set of them, and young people have so much to contribute, um, but historically haven't really been given the the spaces, the opportunities, the programs to do it at scale, and it's very exciting to be a part of providing some of those opportunities.
Yeah, it's fantastic to be here today. Can you share a moment in your early life or education that has been transformational to shaping who you are today?
There are so many. Um, I'm going to give you two.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
the
Double.
first one really was learning I was undocumented. I
Mhm.
just really had no idea because our schools, again, provide a place where everyone's equal. And so I could come in and I was not facing the reality of being an undocumented student in our schools. I just had opportunity like everyone else. But I came home, I had to fill out a form. I asked my mom uh, what my social security number was to fill out that form, and I learned that way that I didn't have one. And that experience really led me, because then I learned about all the things I wouldn't be able to do because of my status. Um, it led me to, for the first time, really have to face how elected officials and their decisions really could have either a really positive impact on my life or really negative impact on my life. And I first got introduced really to the world of politics, period, through my advocacy for the Dream Act for students who were like me, who were brought to this country at a very young age, who have been, part of the U.S. for a long time, and so that was a really formative sort of moment in my life trajectory. I would say a second one would be actually when, as a student, I did have access to a very well respected leader who valued student input. So I met Dr. Eduardo Padron, who had been longtime president of Miami-Dade College. And I was in student government, and so I got to meet with him. And basically, I told him I wanted to volunteer to give back over a summer. And I had just received my green card, my residency, and that meant I could finally work. Yeah. And he offered me a position in his office. And so that changed my life for the better. And it solidified for me that I wanted to make sure I did that for as many people as I could, like kick the door down so more people could have these types of experiences.
Thank you. I love that you talked about that, and such like being able to be surrounded by so many leaders in our community. Like I know Patron was very well known and very well regarded. I know you even have experience with Mr. Zoyer, who I know was a good mentor of yours, and he actually made my school. He was the opener for my school, and I know for various other schools. So I feel like those experiences definitely shaped you 100% to be who you are today.
Greg Zoyer, may he rest in peace, was vital to who I am.
Yeah. So now shifting a little bit to understanding our school board and how it works. And not just our school board, but I know that we're a network of kind of like all the school boards, right? And you kind of participate with that as well.
There's many organizations where there's a lot of school board members who come together.
So for students and families who don't understand how school boards work, what exactly does a school board do? How can you explain that?
Yeah. Well, school boards have multiple roles, but our number one responsibility is to hire and fire a couple of people, the main one being the superintendent.
Yeah.
Because the superintendent is the administrator, the CEO, let's say, that goes and makes sure, everything runs, that the school board sets a vision for like what we should accomplish and then holds that leader to that vision. But even though it's not anywhere in our job description, another huge part of our role is to be advocates for our community. And so we get to be that sort of place where anyone, student, teacher, parent, who's having an issue and has sort of run out of options through the channels available to them, they should have an advocate in a school board. And partially our job is to turn everything we learn about our community and what people in our community need into policies that work for them. And honestly, like, we approve a budget. Obviously, that's a huge deal. And that budget is a statement about the values that this district is, aligning to. And but being an advocate and hiring and firing that superintendent are the top two.
That's kind of like the job description when you apply
at a high
level. So how do, and this kind of segueing into that, but how do school board policies impact the daily lives of students, whether it be me or somebody else, both in and out of the classroom?
I mean, from the time that you have to wake up to get to school, that's a policy. To what you get to wear when you go to school, dress code and uniform is a policy. To what you eat at school, there's policies around that. To like whether you're taking 6 periods or 8 periods, whether you get access to dual enrollment, if you have access to a magnet program, to a specialized program, those are all school board policies. And that just scratches the surface. Literally every single rule that you may love or hate, a school board policy like probably dictates it. Yes. But school board policies also, affect, for example, facilities and how they're funded. And so that's another, thing that people may not realize the school board has a lot of say over. So yeah,
Basically
schoolwork
everything.
policies from the second you wake up to the second you go to bed, homework policy, testing, it's all school board.
The entire procedure. And what is a decision or vote that the school board might have made recently that you feel would be something that students would be surprised to know that's just affecting them now?
A school board vote recently that would affect students.
Yeah.
Okay. Gosh, I'm like, help me out, right? Our briefings.
Maybe a little bit about the policy you're working on. You can
Food
kind
policy, yeah. Well, okay, so this month we haven't yet voted on it, but it's coming up and it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm introducing a food for the future food policy framework. And how does that affect students? Well, through a town hall that we held, we learned that a lot of students want something as simple as access to drinking water when they're at lunch. Now, how did we miss the basics? I don't know, but this is really going to affect everyone. Like, I am now very committed to making sure every student has access to just water when they're at lunch. There's many other things included in that policy, but really ensuring that students have a seat at the table when it comes to better food at school, healthier food and food that tastes delicious is a big policy that's coming up that, I hope, I'm certain will pass. And I hope that students will follow and sort of lend their voice too, because at the town hall we had a fifth grader who joined, and she had amazing feedback, mostly about the food being too greasy, but really, she was such a perfect example of using your voice no matter what age. And actually, most importantly, we need students to use their voice. Because if you don't speak up and you don't like something about your portal, your uniform, your bus, and you don't speak up, no one can fix it. I mean, something as simple as water during lunch. It's because students spoke up about something that, honestly, I had taken for granted.
And I feel like, especially with school lunches, like the tried and true, everyone knows. Like there's people who talk about food lunch all the time. You go to school, I'm sure that's one of the biggest things you hear. So being able to move on the steps to make a plan to make it better is going to change the lives for a lot of students.
For a lot of students, for sure.
Yeah. So next up, we're moving into student voice representation on the board. So why is it important for students to know who represents them on the school board? What is your advice to students across M-DCPS?
Okay, so if you have ideas for how to improve your school or other schools, or if you have ideas for things that really, aren't going well, that aren't helping you, the person who can actually introduce a change to those policies is your school board member. Well, let me clarify. Sometimes there are things that are principal decisions. So it is important for people to know whether what they want to change can be done by their principal, even by their teacher, or if it has to escalate to maybe the superintendent's office or the school board member. It's important that students know who their board members are, because you want to be able to, when you have a concern or an issue, to voice it to the right person. And when you've got a relationship with a school board member, it's much easier if you know them to be able to share your ideas with them. You can go to dadeschools.net to make sure you know who your board member is, because obviously it's easier if you live in the area that someone represents to get in touch with them. And yeah, these are the people who are making decisions about your life every day, so you want to know who they are.
And when they become 18, these are the people that they're probably going to vote for and the seat they're going to vote for. So
and you want to feel really informed when you go and vote and make that decision.
100%.
You want to have followed to see, is that person, the way that they've been voting, does that align with what I want?
100%. And how can students get involved in educational policy even if they can't vote?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I learned this, like I mentioned, I couldn't vote for a while, so I had to find other ways to make my voice heard and to be able to help, So students can definitely join their student government and get involved there, because that's sort of our built-in mechanism for making your voice heard. You can always write an email to your board member, write an
Mhm.
email to the superintendent. Any ideas you have,
Yeah.
write to your principal.
Yeah.
There are countless ways
Mhm.
you can go gather a group of students. Doesn't have to be through any formal means,
Mhm.
but just get a group of people together and say we want to change something, and start sending some
Yeah.
emails and some calls, request some meetings.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. There's sometimes people who go straight to social media to complain about something, but they haven't even picked up the phone to try to call the person who can
Mhm.
change it,
Yeah.
right? So that's another way to get involved. Obviously, we also have tons of clubs
Yes.
and activities that students can get involved in that are more issue or activity
Mhm.
based. And then, of course, eventually, I hope students will consider running for office. I think
Yes.
we need a lot more
Yeah.
of that sort of youth perspective
Mhm.
in all levels of government.
100%.
And so eventually run for
Yeah.
office. And of course, like, yes, voting matters a lot. Voting is the way that you get to decide
Yes.
who represents you at all levels. And so helping register people to vote,
Yeah.
if there's a candidate you believe in, getting involved in their
Mhm.
campaign, so that, because it takes a lot of
Yeah.
people power to be able to get elected. Um, and then lending your talents. I think young people are so talented,
Yeah.
whether it's like social media or writing policy or coming up with wonderful ideas.
Yeah.
Lend your talents to a cause or an elected that you believe in.
I completely agree with that. I think that especially nowadays when there's so many things going on, making sure that you're representing the issues you actually believe need to be represented is crucial, especially for the youth. And I think they're doing a great job so far. I think just making sure that we source in the right direction and going towards the right avenues to make sure that we can get action is
Yeah.
the way. Yeah.
And you said it. It's action, right?
Yeah.
It's about really being solutions oriented.
Mhm.
You will not find a shortage of things to complain about.
Yeah.
I certainly don't. But I think we can be the most effective change makers when we focus on the things that we know we can provide a solution to, and we work toward that solution.
Mhm. I completely agree. So now we're kind of moving a little bit into closing, but before that, there's a few things. And so the project itself and the mission of this project is kind of demystifying the partisanism of politics. So in a time where political parties are so divided and there's so much clashing left and right, how do you think that young people can rise above this division and kind of begin to see issues and fix issues as they are in their community?
So I think the first thing is, like, don't fall for the trap of
Yeah.
I'm always going to agree with one side or I'm always going
Yes.
to agree with the other side. Because honestly, if you're agreeing 100% with either side, there's something wrong with you. Like, you got to think about the issues
Yeah.
individually,
Yeah.
and that you will learn that, sure, in a two-party system in the United States, yeah, you can register independent, you can register non-party affiliation. There may be a party that calls more
Yeah.
to you, and guess what, that might change over time, which is also okay, and people need to know that and be okay with that. So first of all, don't fall for the trap of you must only align with one group and you better agree with them 100%. That's just not a good way to approach things. The second thing is, like, really don't fall for the headlines and the catchphrases.
Yes.
Like, actually, if there's something you care about, go read up on it. Go really research levels deeper. Because a lot of times, we're getting really good at marketing in politics with, headlines and just taglines. And don't just fall for the first thing you see or hear.
Yeah. A lot of people will come up with a TikTok video and it's like, but where did they get this information from?
And so always make sure that you are sort of going as close to the source, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to go read a 1,000-page bill that's introduced on the bill, but don't just take the TikToker's video as fact. And actually, I think young people can play such a big role in sort of demanding that leaders always can lean into the nuance and the complexity. Yeah. There's no issue that's black and white. I don't care what anyone says. And if young people have the expectation of their leaders that they're not going to make everything black or white, that there is nuance and that issues can be more complicated than a yes or no, then young people will do a great service to this nation to say we care about the facts. We want receipts. Yeah. We are not just going to fall for one side or another.
So making sure that we are looking at it in the big picture, not falling into that trap. And I think that's perfectly said, because I feel like so many times, whether it's your parents, your family, your friends, they'll be like, do this, do this, do this, but you need to kind of find your own path and what you believe. And it like we said, it's gray. It's not just white or black. You got to kind of look at the issues individually, see what's happening, and then make your decisions there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And always know too, when you're choosing an elected official, just because they're under a certain party
Yeah.
doesn't also mean that they might reflect the
Yeah.
values, right? There's a lot of times where people end up um and by the way, let me say something. I love that my position is a nonpartisan position. I think it removes a lot of the assumptions that people will make about a person. And it really allows me to focus on who I work for, students. Like, I'm the party of students.
Yeah.
In this role, that it's all that matters. And having more nonpartisan offices can be a great thing. So I've rejected every effort that there has been since I've been elected to, for example, make school board races partisan.
Yeah.
I think that doesn't help anyone. It creates more division when really, like, everyone who runs for the school board should be for the party of kids. That's what I think.
And like what you said, like bills that are proposals like that are trying to make these races partisan, especially with school board, it's kind of just setting people into a trap, kind of. So when they go vote, they're voting for their party instead. So we're kind of tying it all the way back to, making uneducated decisions, because a lot of people, let's face it, when they get to the polls, aren't really looking at who they should be voting for, like by policy. They're kind of just voting by party. So that kind of sets people in that trap. And I'm glad it didn't go through this year in the state of Florida. And I hope that for the future, people continue to make the smart decision of kind of seeing things as they are and not by the party.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So continuing on, is there anything that you would like to add that hasn't been discussed yet? This is aimed at students all over the place. So anything you want to say?
Listen, you don't need to wait for permission. You don't need to have X, Y, or Z experience or years. Like, you just need to have a hunger to make things better. And also a hunger to know that you're not going to know it all, but you're going to be dedicated to learning what you need to know to make good decisions. So just people who love you will tell you to wait a little longer. People who really care about you will say, like, maybe you're not ready for that. And I just want young people to really own their seat at the table. You're such an important part of the ecosystem, and I really think that when young people organize and they make their voices heard, it's so powerful. And you're fully vested in the future. Like, you have to live with all the decisions that are made for your whole life, because you're so young, you're just starting out. So get involved, make your voice heard, and don't think you have to wait for a certain moment.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice. And finally, how can students reach you if they want to hear more about your actions on the school board?
Oh my gosh, yes. Please follow us on Instagram, Luisa Santos D9. On our website, we constantly update it. So luisasantos.com. You can sign up for our newsletter. It's a great newsletter. Every month you'll get, and actually for students, there's an opportunities for students section. So you will literally every month get
Don't miss out.
Awesome
Don't miss out.
Ideas. Yeah.
So make sure you sign up for the newsletter, or else you will get FOMO, guys. So thank you again, Ms. Santos, for joining me today. I'm so glad that we were able to talk to kind of just the community around and let them know why the school board is important, because I feel like we focus on the White House so much and we're not focusing on what's happening in our backyards. So
and it affects us the most.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for your insight, and I think that you're doing a wonderful job representing District 9 as a District 9 resident myself. So thank you for joining us, everyone, at the first episode of Middleground. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, and we will see you guys soon. Bye.